for you guys.
Alright, so we got the K-member installed. K-member and A-arms. We got the rack put back in. I'm doing new inner tie rods, and then the outer tie rods will get replaced with the bump steer kit. But it's all installed. All the bolts are tightened up that you didn't see me tighten up before. I went back and tightened them all up. Alright, so I got the K-member installed. Got all the bolts tightened up that you didn't see me tighten up in the short videos, but I'll show you here. K-member and A-arms. I pulled the boots off for the inner tie rods because I have new ones that I'm going to put on, and the outer tie rods get replaced with the bump steer kit. I still got to put the steering shaft on. It's still off right there, but I need to mock everything up and make sure everything aligns good. But K-member is installed. It's very simple and straightforward install when the motor's not in the car, but it's all good. Y'all want to see a screwed up ball joint? Look at this thing. Alright, so I got the K-member fully installed, tightened all the hardware up. I got the bump steer installed. bump steer kit's installed. I did inner tie rod ends too, so the brand new inner tie rods. The Team Z bump steer kit, K-member is all installed. All the bolts are tightened up. I'm gonna go over a couple of things we ran into. Same issues with my car and Jeremy's blue car. So we ordered the K-member from Late Model Restoration. It comes with the K-member, the A-arms, and a what they call a hardware kit. So the hardware kit comes with the hardware for lower control arms and everything to bolt the K-member to the subframe of the car. It does not come with rack and pinion. The OEM bolts cannot be reused for the rack and pinion, and it does not come with those. You gotta buy them separate, but it does not tell you that. But it did not come with the bolts for the rack and pinion, so we had to just go buy them at a hardware store. They're pretty readily available. But the other issue that we ran into is it says they have an installation video, and if you watch it, it says you have to have offset rack bushings for our oil pan clearance. But we didn't run into any clearance issues with the oil pan. But what we had to do was if you put the rack straight in, you can get one tire straight, but the passenger side, the toe is so far out that the inner tie rod is actually too long to even adjust it back in. So we had to cut 1 inch off the threaded area of the inner tie rod in just to get the car to get back in alignment. We also had to take the offset rack bushings and spin them to where it moves the rack back to the driver's side and cut 1 inch off the inner tie rod. And you can get it in alignment there. That's just some of the stuff we're running into that if you do buy a Team Z. You may run into this same problem with a UPR. I've never installed a UPR, but 2 mod motor cars with a Team Z K-member ran into the same issues. Both of them were identical. But other than that, it went together good. It looks good. All the fitment was great other than the rack issue, but that may be pretty common. So if you don't do anything, if you put it back in with your straight bushings and you try to align it and you cut the tie rod and align it, you run into the wheel will turn further one direction than the other. So if you move the rack with the offset rack bushings back one direction, it ends up being fairly OEM again and you don't even notice. But this is about as far as I got on the front end. I'm going to start on the rear end. So I'm going to yank the rear axle out and do all the control arm setup on that. So that'll be the next video. Thanks for watching.